Hi everybody, welcome back to Sunshine Soap and Candle Company. Back in May of 2021, almost 2 years ago now, I published a video called How to Make the Perfect Shower Gel No Lie. It's been a really popular video on my YouTube channel and also a very popular recipe over on my Patreon campaign. I still get a lot of questions to this day about this formula. People really love it, so I thought it would be a great time to share with you a revised edition of this video tutorial. So after making formulas for a long time and then you come back and remake them, you refine your process and you get a little bit better at what you do. So I thought it would be a great time to address some of those frequently asked questions and also just to show you my revised edition. Now the formula itself remains exactly the same. It's such a great formula, but my process has changed a little bit and I thought I would share that with you and just go over some of those frequently asked questions. Now for my Patreon campaign, I'm going to go ahead and write up the revised edition of this formula and tutorial so you'll have both the original and the revised if you're over on the Patreon campaign. If you haven't had a chance yet to check out my campaign, I'm going to go ahead and place the link to it in my description box below so you can head on over there and take a look at what it's all about. Literally at the $5 level, you have access to hundreds of recipes instantaneously, hundreds of tutorials. There's so much to take advantage of just at that $5 level. I literally haven't taken down any formula that I've ever posted in over 3.5 years. So it's just a great way to access resources. It's a good way to connect with me and other makers. And I really hope you'll make 2023 your year and go check it out. All right, let's make some shower gel. Okay, so in the original tutorial, I showed you what it was like to make a big batch of shower gel, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You can continue to work that method if you like. This time I wanted to show you what it's like to create a paste or a stock out of the surfactants and then use that stock to make as small of a batch as you like. Now, this is especially helpful if you've never made this type of shower gel before, and also it's very helpful when testing new fragrance oils because as some of you may know, different fragrance oils react much differently, and some of them work great and some of them don't work at all. You can get a consistency that's water thin or super thick, or cloudy. It just depends, and you have to test every single one. So this is going to be a great way to help you test out different fragrances and also just kind of get used to the formula. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and weigh off the surfactants needed for this formula. And the first one we're going to put into this glass beaker here is some sodium cocoa sulfate noodles. Sodium cocoa sulfate noodles are made out of coconuts. This is what's going to give your shower gel its cleansing properties and also its foam and lather. So we're going to go ahead and weigh off the solid surfactant sodium cocoa sulfate noodles. This surfactant is really good at creating a nice fluffy lather. It's probably one of my favorites. If you are someone that likes a lot of bubbles and foam like I do, you will really appreciate this surfactant. The drawback is this is not sulfate free, which I know a lot of people like. All right, now that that's all weighed off, I'm gonna go ahead and dump it into my crock pot. Now my crock pot is on high heat. So I'm just gonna take my solid surfactant, I'm gonna place it into my crock pot. I'm gonna go ahead and place the lid on for now. Now, that solid surfactant will not melt down without the use of a liquid surfactant. Even water is not going to melt it down without a liquid surfactant. It just won't. So the liquid surfactant that we're using here is Cocamidopropyl Betaine. Now this is a liquid surfactant that's going to give you nice foam and lather, also made out of coconuts, super gentle, and one of my favorite ones to use. All right, and then we're just going to combine the liquid surfactant with the solid surfactant on high heat in a crock pot. And we're going to give that a little bit of a stir. And then get this going. So this is going to create sort of a paste. You're going to notice that the noodles get melted down, but they don't, this paste is not going to go clear. It's going to turn into a white looking paste. So I will bring you back when this is all melted down. You're just going to want to come in and give it a stir every few minutes until everything is completely melted. Leave the lid on. All right, I just wanted to bring you in for a little bit of an update here. It has been probably a little less than a half an hour, and you can see that solid surfactant is starting to dissolve down into the liquid surfactant, but it's not completely ready yet because you can still see the noodle forms. Once you don't see the little noodles anymore and it's more of just a homogeneous white kind of gel, then your paste is ready. So I'll bring you back when it looks like it's all the way dissolved down. All right, so those little SCS noodles, the sodium cocoa sulfate, is all dissolved down into the cocoa betaine now. It's probably been about an hour, maybe a little bit longer, but as you can see, there's no little noodles. It's just kind of a white paste gel. Now we're going to go ahead and transfer this to a container that we can put an airtight lid on so you can save the stock for, you know, future projects or whatever. And as it cools, you're going to notice that it turns very much more solid than this. My crock pot is still on high, so this is very hot still. So this is a very fluid looking, but as it cools, it will turn into a solid kind of paste. Okay, so the surfactants now are all transferred over to this container. It's still very warm, so I'm going to allow it to cool so you can see what it looks like as it solidifies. Now, I forgot to address that a lot of people have asked me if you can make this same thing with SCI, sodium cocoa isothianate, instead of SCS, because that would make it sulfate free. And the answer is yes, you can. However, you are going to get a different consistency and a little bit different of a lather. But you can replace this with SCI if you like. Just know that you might need to do some more adjustment with the thickness at the end. Okay, I'll bring you back when we're ready for the next step. Okay, so my surfactant paste has had some time to set up now. It's still a little bit warm, so as it sits and gets down to room temperature, it will get even more solid than it is now, but it's pretty solid right now. So this right here is enough surfactant paste to create 100 ounces of shower gel. But today I'm going to show you what it looks like to use this to create smaller batches so that you can just make as much as you like, or you can use it to test different fragrances. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and take these two little beakers, because I'm going to show you what it looks like to make one with a fragrance that I know works in here, and then we're going to test out another fragrance so you can see both of those. So I am just going to take the tiniest bit of amethyst water-soluble dye, and I'm going to place it to the bottom of this. This is a powdered water-soluble dye, and I'm telling you the tiniest bit, like you can't even measure how much I'm going to be putting in there. It's so small, because we're only going to be creating about 10 ounces here. Now I can come back and add a little bit more if I want, but what I'm going to do next is then just take my surfactant right here. I'm going to tear out my scale, and I'm going to weigh out the amount of surfactant needed to create 10 ounces of shower gel. So as you can see, it's a little bit liquidy still underneath, but again, as it sits, it does get completely solid. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and warm up the distilled water to melt this back down. So what we're going to do is we're going to dissolve this surfactant paste down into some distilled water until everything is dissolved. So I'm going to bring you back when I'm ready for the next step. Okay, so I've got my hot water, and I've also placed another beaker with some surfactant paste here. This is going to be our test fragrance. This is going to be the one that I know works very well, just to kind of show you. So we're going to go ahead and weigh off the water. This is boiling hot water, distilled water. You want to make sure it's really, really hot because we're trying to bring this paste, we're trying to dissolve it down. And of course, this is where you're going to start to kick up some bubbles because the surfactants here are going to get agitated with the water. Okay. And then I've got a little tiny bit of blue water-soluble dye in here. As you can see, a little tiny bit goes a long way. All right, so what we're going to do is just kind of allow these to start dissolving. So this blue is seriously concentrated. We're just going to go ahead and slowly start to stir these. Okay, and we're just going to allow that water, that hot water, to dissolve the surfactant paste. At this point, you want to make sure you're going a little bit slow with your stirring. So you're trying not to stir to kick up so many bubbles, but you know, you're going to kick up some because the water's already included now. As you can see, that hot water is starting to break up the paste nicely. Okay, I'm going to allow this to just kind of dissolve, and I'll bring you back when we are ready for the next step. Okay, so that was several minutes of stirring, and as you can see, I've kicked in a lot of bubbles, so we have sort of just an opaque looking formula. I still have a tiny bit of undissolved surfactant kind of floating around the top. Not to worry, that will dissolve, but it's still kind of warm, which I find is a good time to add the next couple of the ingredients here. So we're sitting right around 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one first because I know for sure that the fragrance oil that I want to use in here works well with this formula. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my glycerin first, and that's going to be going in. All right, and then we're going to be adding in some cashmere plum fragrance oil. This is from Candle Science. It's a beautiful fragrance. It works really well in candles as well. It just smells, cashmere plum is kind of a weird name. It definitely has those cashmere notes and it has those fruit notes, although I might not name it cashmere plum if I was going to be selling this one. So we're going to go ahead and add in the fragrance oil. It's probably going to need a little pipette here, so mine is very full. There we go. Then gonna give this a good stir to combine that glycerin and fragrance oil into the formula. And then I'm going to allow this to sit. We are going to come back with a preservative here in just a minute. But I wanted to go ahead and add my glycerin and fragrance to this one as well. So this one I have not tested yet in a shower gel like this. So this is Freesia Bubble Bath by Brambleberry. It's a beautiful clean fragrance. It just reminds me of like an old school kind of after bath splash. I absolutely love it. So there's that, and then we're going to go ahead and add in our glycerin as well. All right, give this one a good stir. I have no idea how this is going to react with this, but this is how I would go about testing. I would actually test in a much smaller amount, but for video purposes, I just wanted you guys to see this. I would probably test in 1 ounce or 2 ounces of shower gel. Sometimes it can go real thick right when you add it and then go back down to normal. So it seems like right now it is thickening up this shower gel, but we're gonna have to give it time. Sometimes they go super, super thick and then water thin. So we'll have to see how this sets up. Right now it seems to be sort of thickening it up a little bit. Okay. And then this one has gone pretty thin at the moment. See the difference in viscosity? We're still rather warm. So we're going to have to see what the final result is after they have a chance to just cool down to room temperature. The only other thing I wanted to do here is add a preservative. I just need to make sure we're not too hot. Okay, we're okay to go ahead and add our preservative in now. And then we're just going to allow these shower gels to sit. So I'm adding in some liquid Germall Plus. This is a great preservative for surfactant-based, water-based systems. All right, here goes the preservative. And the same goes for this one. There we go. We're going to give these a good stir. And then we're just going to allow these to set up. To room temperature. All right, I'll bring you back when these have come to room temperature and we can judge the final viscosity. All right, so I've allowed these 2 shower gels to just kind of sit overnight. They were covered with plastic wrap to reach their final viscosity, and something really surprising happened that I want to share with you. So I kept telling you all through the video that the Cashmere Plum fragrance oil works perfectly in this formula, and it used to. I have used it before and it used to set up perfectly. So the only thing I can think is this fragrance oil has been reformulated since the last time I've purchased it. So anyway, I wanted to show you the difference in viscosity, and this is why fragrance oil testing matters a whole bunch. So this is the Cashmere Plum that I told you would not make a difference on the viscosity of this formula. And as you can see, the cashmere plum, after it's set up, we have a perfectly clear formula, meaning it's see-through, very nice for a shower gel. However, it's almost a water-thin viscosity. Okay, and I've also allowed all the bubbles to settle out of these two, so you can see the final viscosity. Now, the Bubble Bath Freesia fragrance oil did not react negatively to this formula whatsoever. So this is the final viscosity. You can still see I've got a lot of bubbles in here that are working their way back out. So this will continue to get more clear like it is on the bottom as the bubbles work their way out. And it actually will thin out just a little bit more too as the bubbles work their way out. But I wanted to show you the final viscosity here. So this is a traditional shower gel viscosity. Now, when your fragrance oil doesn't react negatively with this formula, this is the final viscosity that you get. So this is why we don't add any type of thickener until we know how the fragrance oil is going to work. Because had I added thickener to this, you know, thinking that I needed to use it like you need to use it in this one would have been way too thick to use. And then at that point, there's really not a lot you can do to salvage it. I mean, even adding water is not ideal. So what I'm gonna do is show you how to bring this up to a good viscosity, and then we're gonna package these up. All right, so what I've got here is a little bit of glucose D. This is my favorite commercial thickener. It actually adds some conditioning properties to your formula, but it takes a little bit only to get a nice viscosity. And you have to put this in a warm water bath. Is the only thing before you use it. You don't have to, but you should, because your formula, this is very viscous on its own. And so mixing it into your formula cold, it actually just kind of clumps up and takes a really long time to dissolve and thicken up your formula. So if you warm it up, and this is an as desired amount, so you just start out with a little bit, but if you warm it up, it thins it out perfectly, and then you have a much easier time adding it to your formula. So already it's giving me some more viscosity, but you just add in little bits at a time until you reach your desired viscosity. Both of these smell really, really good. Now, if I was just making a tiny batch like this again, next time I probably wouldn't use as much color. You guys saw I just put the tiniest bit in there and it just is so concentrated. It's really pretty, but I probably would go for a little bit less next time. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring this up to viscosity, and then I'll bring you back. All right, so we've brought this up to viscosity now. As you can see, it's now got a perfect viscosity for shower gel. It's a tiny bit thinner than this one, but then again, I do believe that this one is going to thin out some as all of those bubbles work their way out. So there you go. That's how you can fix it if you get something that's water thin. You can add a commercial thickener. The glucose D happens to be my favorite because, again, it adds those beautiful conditioning properties to the shower gel. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and package these up now into these 8-ounce PET Boston Round, and they hold about 10 ounces even though they are 8-ounce bottles. They hold about 10 ounces in volume. So we're going to go ahead and get this filled up. And there you go, perfect. We just made little 10-ounce batches here. And we're gonna go ahead and pop the lid on. Isn't that gorgeous? Okay, and then we're gonna go ahead and package up the next one. Okay, And there's that gorgeous traditional shower gel type consistency. It's hard to achieve this. So now you know that the Bubble Bath Freesia works great in this, and then in the original video, the pink sugar crystals from Candle Science also works great in this with no added thickeners. But not to worry, if it does thin out, you can always adjust it with a little of that commercial thickener. So I'm actually kind of glad. I thought it was going to be the other way around. I thought this one was going to go water thin, and I thought the Cashmere Plum was going to go just right. So anyway, I'm glad I got to show you both ways, because I get a lot of questions about the viscosity changing after people add fragrance oil, and it's just the way that it is. That's why they all need to be tested. It's interesting on camera that this color too looks almost like an indigo. This is really like a just a brilliant kind of blue. Okay. So here they are, all bottled up. These are so fun to make and to use. So we're gonna go ahead and do a little bit of a lather demo here for you, and I'll just do it without a loofah so you can see what that looks like. Real quick here too, before we do the demo, I just wanted to let you know, if you feel like your formula is a little bit too thick, don't be afraid to allow it to sit for over 24 hours. You just want to make sure all the bubbles are worked out before you judge the viscosity. This can appear to be too thick right away after you're stirring it all in, because with this formula, you do have to add the water to the surfactants, which does agitate the bubbles. That's just the way this formula works. So before you judge viscosity, you know, make sure you definitely let all those bubbles work out. And as you can see, I still have a lot of bubbles in this one, but we're gonna get a great final viscosity when this is all worked its way out. I'll try to show you some pictures when it, you know, clears up and you don't see so many bubbles in there. So this is why I have called it the perfect shower gel. So I have done nothing to this except allow it to sit for about 2 days and allow all the bubbles to settle out of it completely. And as you can see, it's a perfectly transparent formula with perfect viscosity. So I wanted to show you that visual because this is what it should look like when everything goes to plan. Just a beautiful, perfect shower gel. Try to put that at the end of the video. Okay, I hope that clears some things up regarding this particular formula, and I hope that helps simplify things with the way that I showed you how to make the stock. So what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and show you how this works. I'm gonna pull a little bit of the Bubble Bath Freesia. Look at that. I'm just gonna give this a good, I mean, this is such a great traditional shower gel type lather and viscosity. This is why this has been such a great formula for people who are looking for something like that. Look at that. I mean, just a little bit makes the best lather. And it has, because of the high amount of glycerin in this formula too, it's got a great, like, I don't know, just a moisturizing kind of creamy feel to it. It's gorgeous. Again, I really hope you'll check this out. Both the original way that I did this is still available on the Patreon campaign, and then this revised edition will be posted as well. So I really hope you'll give it a look. This has been a great popular formula on my campaign. And that's it, everybody. That's how you make the perfect shower gel with no lye. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up. Please leave comments or questions below. Share this video with a friend and subscribe to my channel. All right, everybody. Bye. Keep shining.